Warning. Pro-Tri News is a podcast with different opinions, knowledge, and possibly fake news about triathlon racing. This podcast is for entertainment purposes only, and some stories may be dramatized for comedic effect. Enjoy.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Pro-Tri News. I'm your host, Kyle Glass, joined by the three arguably best pundits in triathlon. If you're listening for the first time, we talk about the professional level of triathlon racing, everything that goes on the circuit, things you know about, things you don't, hot takes, all the above. So, joined by Talbot Cox, Patrick Lemieux, and Mark Matthews. Talbot Cox, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. I think that we need to get away from calling us the best, though, because I think we're just fans. We just love the sport. I don't know if we're the best pundits.
I think we're the only pundits. That's why. Well, I guess we're not really only anymore.
Thoughts, guys? Mark, how you doing?
I'm good. I've got half a cat's family in the house. I've thrown them out to go to the pub for some peace and quiet, to do some podding. Best pundit. No, I don't want a title, because if you have a title, you have to actually do that thing, and then I find I get myself in trouble. I would rather just be a guy with a microphone and a vague context of triathlon, and then you can't really miss that bracket. That's what I want to be.
I like that. Pat?
I got to come clean with a few things on the pod. So Gwen, God bless her, commandeered my phone last night, unbeknownst to me, and shot a message in the group text that said, "Tomorrow, I have 60 minutes tops."
Oh,
that was Gwen. I thought that was you. Oh my God.
So that's where we're at. But to recover from that, what did happen was I went downstairs into our home gym this morning, and Gwen is in there just breaking a sweat, heavy lifting. And what is she lifting to? What is pumping her up? Last week's pod at 2x speed.
Hey.
That's what I heard. So anyway,
2x speed. Speaking of last week's pod, we did. I myself went on a pretty big rant. There was some factual inaccuracies that I think we should address. Nick Rulli, the official that we said was at Ironman 70.3 La Quinta, super nice guy. He wasn't actually on site there. There was some confusion because the official there chatted with Nick. She said she spoke with Nick, so that was a little bit of confusion. Also, Lionel, need to be clear on this. This is really important. Lionel was not officially disqualified. He was retroactively disqualified. So take that for what you want. And then also too,
but then ended up not being disqualified.
Correct. And then also too, we spoke about Jimmy Riccatello's role in the Ironman World Championship 2023 Nice meeting. I think there was some confusion because that was the heated topic of the crossing the center line rule and all that. Jimmy did not participate in that meeting, was there, but did not participate. So just wanted to clarify a few inaccuracies. But I love the fact, though, Pat, you said 2x speed. I'm genuinely curious how many people listen to our show at 2x speed.
We don't sound anything like what I think we sound like on that speed. I don't know. I'm having to listen with so much intent, and it's just flying by. And so I don't know how she does that.
Well, do you think we should start talking really fast so then every time we do a race recap, she can listen to almost 4x speed?
That would be.
that was quite good.
That was
pretty good. I also have something to mention. So I went to Tulsa over the weekend with my girlfriend for her Christmas party, and we were driving back, and she's like, "Well, let's put something on so we can listen to, because it's a long trip, or an hour and change." And she turns on the pod, and I'm like, "What are you doing?" And she was like, "Well, listen, we've been having this conversation a lot, whenever we leave church, of do you think that the pastor, they're just born to talk like that, or do you think that's something that's taught to them?" And then Pat's talking, and she's like, Pat has a really good cadence when he talks. You think he was trained how to do that? Pat, were you trained how to talk with that cadence?
I was not trained, but I will say my mother was in radio for over 30 years. So I do think there's a bit of a nature-nurture thing going on here. I might just be naturally blessed with that. Doesn't matter, though, when we get a little prelim of our ranking on how we're doing as favorite host, because you want to know who's dead last?
Who?
I'll tell you, the guy in the bottom left corner, myself. And so if you have not gone and done our year-end awards show, I please encourage you to do that. We've had over 500 votes so far, which has been
We're
a
at
record.
700. We're at 700.
But when you go and vote for favorite host, I'm going to need a couple sympathy votes here. I'd like to be at least closer to third.
I think you're ahead of one guy who I saw put drunk Mark. So
Okay.
drunk Mark is last. Mark is doing okay. Drunk Mark is dead last.
I think they just assume that drunk Mark's just all the time. But yeah,
we don't want to get too much into the results, but they are. I don't want to say surprising because they're just factually true. Like it should also be noted that the second highest ranked member of the podcast in the rankings right now is Jillian, the graphics girl, not even Kyle or myself. So that should be noted.
Just vote for Jillian.
Yeah, just vote for Jillian.
This grace. Let's just get Jillian number one. Let's put us all in our boxes. That's all you need to do.
But speaking of that, that will be next week's show. We'll link it in the description of this show. Yeah, link it in the description of the show. We had an awesome weekend of racing. The T100 Grand Final was everything that it proved to be. So I think we need to dive into it and go over it.
So
I'll go ahead and just say, like, my overwhelming one for me was how much I've slept on Kate Waugh a little bit personally. Like, I think I kind of felt like up until that, I thought at times, maybe in my head, I thought maybe she got a bit lucky. You know, so and so didn't race this, that, and the other. So I'm just going to start with I was pretty blown away by how dominant that was. But sorry, Carl, canter on.
No, you're good. So over this weekend, well, technically Friday, it was the T100 Grand Final in Qatar. It was 2-loop swim, 6-lap bike, kind of just how all the T100 races have panned out. Lucy Charles Barclay leading the swim, Jess Learmonth closely behind her, and Kate Waugh, they all kind of got out together. There was a group of about 9 girls, all came out together. And they kind of blitzed the bike. Lucy Byram had the fastest bike split of the day. Lucy Charles rode pretty good. I think the biggest shock for us, though, maybe was how far down out of the water Julie came out, and then wasn't able to really bridge that gap. And she was kind of the person that we were all eyeing, seeing like how she would do since she's contending for the win. And so then it kind of became like a 2-horse race between Lucy, Charles Barclay, and Kate Waugh. They came off the bike together, and then Kate kind of just started to drift further away from everyone else, ended up winning the race, winning the series. And then second place, shortly after behind her, 20 seconds, was Georgia Taylor Brown, and then third was Julie Duran. So shocking day super amazing performance for Ellie Salthouse to come home fourth, and then Lucy Charles Barclay fifth. So that's kind of just how the race panned out from just the overall bird's eye view of it. T100 does a great job of posting not only the live broadcast from the entire race, so you can go back and rewatch all of the amazing details and things that happened in the race, but also they do like a highlights one that's kind of shorter on YouTube and stuff as well. So overall in the series, Kate Waugh won off 183 points, Julie Duran second with 163 points, and then Lucy Charles Barclay third with 152 points.
I thought one of the big surprises or upsets throughout the race for me was, Julie didn't have a great swim, but when Julie Duran starts the run 143 back, for me, it was job done. I thought she was going to cruise through that field. You know, you spot Julie Duran 143 in any other race against these ladies when she's on good form, she wins that. But she just didn't. It just didn't show up. And then the other bit that I thought was real impressive, and you know, you can always say one more K. Georgia Taylor Brown was absolutely charging at the end of that race.
So that's what I was going to ask. Now I couldn't tell. Do we know when Kate Waugh was stumbling in that final 50 to 75 meters? Was that her stumbling because she was falling apart, or was she stumbling because she was overwhelmed with joy, or what was the
up. She threw up.
She threw up at the finish, like
and then she threw up.
neon vomit at the finish line.
Yeah, so she was throwing up in her mouth trying to keep it in, which for a fairly glamorous girl is like worst case scenario when you're winning your world champs, because you know she is a glamorous lady as
But
Kate Wolf.
but literally, I mean, if this would have been, I mean, we're not talking 1K longer. If this would have been a 70.3, I mean, it would have been a huge detonation. I mean, a massive fade.
Well, that was partly on her fade was about to happen, but you gauge the effort for the race, right?
Of course, no. Of course,
But the
of
big
course.
one was the kick that Georgia put into Julie to drop her and then start closing on Kate was mighty impressive. And backing it up from a 70.3 just the Friday before, where she broke the 70.3 world record in Bahrain. Like, this is the Georgia I kind of expected to see at the start of the season, being super good at this distance. And I'm excited to see what she has to offer next year.
Yeah, same. Anything else impress you guys on the weekend with the how the race panned out? Oh, sorry, fastest run split was Ashley Gentle with the 105.20.
I was just going to say that. Super nice to see Ash, especially after most people have seen her social media. Essentially, she miscarried within the week before the race. Her long-term partner was racing across the world in Patagonia, man. Like a super hard and emotionally tough build-up for her. So to see her rally and put down a good performance. And the other one, Lucy Byram, she was crying walking down to the pontoon. We talked about it in the pod before. Her partner died earlier in the year and she hasn't raced since. And to say they were like thick as thieves when it comes to racing and the support on the race, like what me and Reece Barkley and people like that do for our partners was nothing compared to what her partner used to do for her. And she lost him earlier in the year. So to see her come back, absolutely dominate the bike. Some of the overtakes, the side-on shots, just ripping past people. I was super happy to see Lucy Byram back.
Yeah. Anything else kind of impress you guys from the women's race that you felt was like kind of the culmination? The big thing that kind of stood out for me was after the race, the amount of people that posted both on the men and women's side of like how tired everyone is because it's December.
I think that is going to be a very big talking point. You got to it is every single almost athlete that raced in this race posted after and said it's been a long season. First off, I don't know how in endurance you can keep that up seasons that long. I mean, this has been an all year thing if you didn't strategically play it right. Also, some of these athletes dabble in different series and all that. You got the likes of Lucy Charles, who was sick as a dog before the race, still decided to toe the line and start the race. You got Paula Finley, who's slightly injured and still needed to get out there and try to get some points, and so goes through the motions and stuff. Just like what Mark said, Lucy Byram, like you got all these athletes that still got out there, so it's quite interesting, and it'll be interesting to watch a lot of these athletes how they play it differently next year as well, if that rings a bell or makes sense at all. Mark?
I mean, yeah, even before Mark goes, I mean, just thinking about the back end of the year, though, that like an Ellie Salthouse had that got fourth at the grand final and ended up being well inside the top 10 in the overall at the end of the year, and will all of a sudden go, okay, now this is a distance that I've earned the right to start at next year. And I'm not sure that we could have ever predicted, how well she would have actually done. Fourth in the grand final, finished 6th or 7th in the overall. I mean, it's incredible. So what does this mean? I mean, Mark, what does this mean then for the women that have earned a right to start the first race next year, given the new ranking system?
So, Kyle, I'm right in thinking it's the top 10 from this series have guaranteed starts next season.
Correct.
Then they fill it with wildcards and top of the contender series.
But I think it's only the first race.
It's only the first race. And then after that, it levels out on like if you are
and they'll like reseeded or something.
Yeah. So if you're then in the top 20 in the first race, etc., and then they fill the rest of the slots with contenders. So those with like the guaranteed right to start: Kate Wolf, Julie Deron, Lucy Charles Barkley, Ashley Gentle, Jess Learmoth, 5th overall, fair play. Ellie Salthouse, Georgia Taylor Brown, Taylor Knibb, even with missing the first, and Taylor Knibb's got the top 10 with just 3 scoring races of the year. Lucy Byram and Holly Lawrence off her first year straight back off pregnancy. Bam, top 10, guaranteed first race. The first person.
Would be worth mentioning. So 3 people moved into the top 10 that were outside the top 10 before the race. So Georgia Taylor Brown went from 17th to 7th. Holly Lawrence went from 13th to 10th, and Ellie Salthouse went from 11th to 6th.
There's one for you, Kyle. Who makes the sweatshirt you're making? You're
So
wearing?
Meg
Who
McDonald, you like that?
Yeah.
Bloody
So
beautiful.
the end of the series, she's a fan of the show and a good friend of ours. The end of the series pays down to 20th, and 20th place gets 20 grand, which for a young athlete like Meg, and she snuck on in this last race to take 20th overall, which is super. Yeah, so she got herself 20 grand, so she's buying the drinks. But then what also I didn't realize is with the contender series, and we said this last week, you either can earn in the contender series or the T100 series, and whichever your highest earner is, you take that. So Lizzie Rayner, who ended up 21st, I think is actually in contention for 16 grand in the contender series. So she didn't lose out 20 grand by missing one slot, because she's actually ranked really well in the contenders.
Yeah.
I think something that probably needs to be done with the T100, and they've done this in the past. There was a lot of confusion around the Collins Cup. A lot of confusion. No one knew what it was, the format, all this stuff. They made a phenomenal graphics video. It's actually their second most viewed channel video on their channel, and it's called the Collins Cup Explainer. The reason why I bring that up is it's probably worth it for their social team to go and do an explainer video of how next year will look, because I think there's a lot of confusion from the athletes to the fans, how they can track, how they can do all that. So yeah.
So I've got a follow up on the Collins Cup. I think we should do a Collins Cup, but just for women, because at one point on the bike, the GB flag was the top 7 ladies on the bike were all Brits, and then there were another 3. There were 10 of the top 20 women were all Brits. And if you look down the standing of the Brit flags on the women's side at T100, absolutely killing it. The men, no one cares about men's sport, so it doesn't matter.
We're only here for the women's sport. So.
Exactly.
That's awesome.
It should be noted too, though, assuming if I think there's a question mark with what Lucy will race next year. Taylor Knibb probably won't take her T100 starts next year, and then this is complete assumption. But if Ashley Gentle and Josh decide to try again, you could see her even being pregnant next year for the series. Well, so that would almost potentially open up 3 slots that would roll those. I wonder if those athletes will roll on and stuff, if that makes sense.
And I feel like it's like, no offense, but I'm not an elite athlete, so it's probably a little bit harder for me. But like, when someone says you have to start your season in Australia in 3 months, like that's a tall order.
I don't think you should do yourself down, Kyle. You're an elite athlete, mate. You were
I'm
on the
just
beers
stacking
last
days.
night.
Stacking days.
I say I just thought that.
I say that while we're starting our season in New Zealand in 3 months.
Yeah, Jesus, yeah. I hope we don't see Ashley Gentle next year racing, if that's the case.
Me too.
I thought as well. I think given what we've heard about the push for 20 meters, etc., from Lucy, I'm going to go on a limb and say she'll do one of the big German races, a small Ironman, a couple of T100 races, and focus on Kona and Nice. That's what I think we'll see Lucy do.
Yeah, I can see that. Should we move on to the men's race?
Yeah, I just lastly, turns out being a phenomenal series. Came down to the very end. T100 did an extremely good job. Their social media team did a phenomenal job. I'm a little bummed. I guess we can cover this at the end. I'm a little bummed that probably it wasn't as hyped as everyone, because it was actually a pretty good series throughout the season. There was a lot of wild cards, people throwing in and all that, but for it to come down that almost anyone could have won both sides of the race or the standings.
I do think we maybe should take a little bit of. I don't think we can say we're bummed the T100 wasn't that well hyped when we've bashed it all season quite a lot as well. Why wasn't it hyped more by other people? It's outrageous. Yeah, the men's was good as well. I think Talbot, like you said, sorry, before you go, like, it's December, it's late, all the other championships are finished. Like, fans get fatigue of it. That's why football season, soccer, all the other sports, there is an off season, because people do get bored, as well as, because let's be honest, American sport, if you could just run it all year round and make the money, they'd just run it all year round.
No, I mean, but NBA has this. I mean, NBA has this issue. I mean, all these major sports do, right? They've got to create a championship inside the championship to try and keep the audience.
It's so bad
engaged.
here. They have Congress has to make laws that NFL can't play on Saturdays because that's NCAA day. I mean, it is the way they've spread it out. It's crazy.
It's crazy. So, the other big thing that happened was the men's race. Obviously, how that race panned out. Vincent Louis didn't want Morgan Pearson to pass him again in the swim, so he made sure that he came out of the swim first. So Vincent Louis let out the swim with a pack of about 5-6 guys, and then I think the shocker a bit was how far back Rico Bogan was out the swim, because he's usually one of those guys that's been leading out the swims and things like that. Just probably a testament to how long the season's been and how much racing he's done. So Rico Bogan, Mika Newt, and Hayden Wild kind of came out of the water together, which is kind of the perfect storm for an insane bike ride. So they rode extremely well and were up towards the front. Fastest bike split, however, came by Matisse Margerier. And then the fastest run split was Morgan Pearson coming from behind, down significant margin, and then kind of rolled it up. But the story tells of its time this season is Hayden Wild winning the race and winning the overall series. So first time he's ever been a world champion. So congrats to Hayden for absolutely dominating this whole season. So Hayden won the race, Morgan Pearson second, and Martin Van Riel third place. So huge.
Should be noted, Hayden not only dominated the season, had a terrible injury in the middle of the season, crashed his bike in the middle of the season against a vehicle, and was able to come back and still nearly have a perfect score. Or did he have a perfect score?
I mean,
Yeah.
he won every race he did.
Yeah, he had a perfect score. Ridiculous.
Perfect score.
I mean,
Yeah.
like we could dwell on Hayden. He's just by far better than everyone else at this. And I don't know how T100 make it more exciting next year, because Hayden's going to keep winning unless someone else really steps their game up. I would say go to 12 meters and then get Morgan Pearson closer to the front, because then you actually have it's a joke, but like that's what it would take, because Morgan was unbelievably good in this race. You've got to give your credit to Morgan Pearson.
I think for me, this was a breakthrough race for Morgan Pearson. And I'm just going to say this because I've been lucky enough to ride my bike with him a few times over the past couple of years. So I've seen firsthand the strength that he has on the road bike, but that hasn't converted yet to, I think, that position on the time trial bike. But when we were 60K into this race and he was still in the mix. I mean, this was, I think, the confirmation that he can be a huge, huge factor at this distance, right? Obviously he won in Dubai, but there was some asterisks around that race. This to me was the confirmation that, yeah, he can continue to win at this distance.
Totally. And he looked dialed on the bike as well. Like he has clearly put some thought into this. He looked powerful. He looked strong. He sort of rode really smart. He rode with groups, but even when the bikes are behind him, like I bet the drafting scores here are super low. Like the whole thing was just really well raced by him, and that run is absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
Do you maybe Morgan should pick a format and focus, because it seems like he's maybe focused on this the last month or two. Did that good. The rest of the year he's been chasing World Series and this. So I think Morgan can be lethal at this.
I think this will complement his short course racing, the focusing the bike, because I do think that's where Morgan's been let down. He's obviously a great swimmer. He occasionally has the odd shocking swim, which is always strange to me, but he seems like he's more consistent. But he's found himself in the wrong place in bike packs. And I do think like there is a tactical knowledge of where to sit in the bike pack, but there is also just the raw power to be able to hold the front of the pack at all times. And if this focus on his cycling, which clearly hasn't impacted his running too much, it's a home Olympics, LA. I think he'll still really want to focus on the short course as well, because with that kind of run, he could medal at his home Olympics.
Yeah. I mean, and the thing is now, right? You're going to there's just way less T100s to do, right? So it's going to effectively be, 3 or 4 plus the grand finals where they're going to end up, right? And so he probably has the ability to cherry pick 2 of them, right? And then ideally he's like, my scores are good enough to make it to the grand final if I do that. With Olympic points starting back up in May, he might say, okay, my idea is I want to do the Olympic distance, which we're going to get to that, the T50 as we're going to call it. And then I want to stay ready and I'm going to do a bunch of work to still dominate and make a ton of money at these T100s, right?
Yep.
So
the thing that I thought was most shocking was, did you guys see the speed that Morgan dropped Yella? Like Yella Geens, the guy who just freaking won the 70.3 World Championship, and Morgan passed him like he was standing still.
I think it shows. Look at Lucy's run as well. I think it shows what winning a, I don't want to say actual world title, but fuck it, actual. I sworn. Do you see last show? Not one swear word, by the way.
Yeah, that was good.
Please notice that. Anyway, that they both won big world titles a month ago. I think it's very hard to stay driven and focused for that entire period. Like,
I think if you asked Yella, would you rather get passed by Hayden in the Qatar Grand Final or win the 70.3 world title? I think that Yella's going to pick the same thing, probably 10 times.
No, of course, but I think he really wanted to. He wanted like a.
I think he wanted one more proper battle with Hayden.
He wanted a shoulder. He wanted a shoulder to shoulder, right?
Yeah.
With Hayden or Yella? Yella did.
Yella with Hayden.
I think Yella wanted it.
He did, but it's like that great listener said to us, no one will podium at 70.3 Worlds that did Kona. And we said, you're absolutely ridiculous and what nonsense. And they were totally right. And I think it's just shown it again with Lucy and Yella. It takes a lot out of you. There's a massive emotional thing. There's a want to celebrate, want to chill a bit. There's a, I don't know, the drive goes maybe a touch.
The real thing here, we can dance around this all we want, but the real thing here now is, what would have happened if Hayden qualified for 70.3 World Championship? Like that's a realistic thing that most of our listeners not only have sent us but have said to us.
Okay. So here's what he would have obviously been in the mix for the 70.3 World Championship title. There's no doubt about it. There's a couple things that work against him at 70.3 in Marbella, right? And this isn't knocking Hayden. He would have been on the bubble or the cusp of making that group, right? There were 40 guys basically within a minute of each other out of the water. That then shed down to 10. Would he have been able to make that group of 10? Question number one. Question number two is, he had to do another 70.3 to get into it. There wasn't really a layup 70.3 that he could have gone and just jogged around at. Like, he was going to burn a match having to qualify to get into the race. You take a week to travel to, you take a week, whether you could take the easy week. Yes, he could have done it, but let's just not assume that he would have been able to win all these races, plus win the 70.3 to get in, plus win 70.3 Worlds. I don't think that's fair to his other competitors. He would have had to compromise somewhere. Would he have been hugely impactful in that race? I bet he would have podiumed. But the issue is, you got to get there.
Yeah.
And it should be noted too, which would have made it, yes, for a phenomenal race. I've spoke with Christian, even spoke with Christian like 2 days ago about this. Both of them, Yella and Christian, both completely let up on the run at 70.3 Worlds and were jogging and having a conversation. And at one point, Yella said, "What are you doing?" And he said, "Oh, I'm waiting." This is KB's mindset. I'm waiting on Casper so him and I can have a sprint finish for the win. Trying to get into Yella's head.
It's just mind games.
But totally. But I'm just saying, it's incredible. They ran 107, letting off the gas, chatting. I mean, and it just shows you that Hayden would have been in that as well. And you just got to wonder what the dynamic would have been like if they were all. I mean, it would have made for a brilliant, brilliant race. So, yes. Also, should be noted on here, Morgan Pearson is the greatest #1 swimmer in triathlon right now, ranked #1. And on the run, which is a little bit debatable due to the kind of weird timings in Dubai, he's #2, the second greatest runner in triathlon right now. And that's due to the fact that I think there was a timing issue in Dubai, but Hayden has that. So that's how Hayden is ranked the #1. But could you arguably say Hayden is the greatest runner and swimmer in triathlon right now?
And Morgan.
Sorry, Morgan?
He's a great aquathon athlete.
I mean,
yeah, the aquathlon. You know, who won all those aquathlons? Richard Varga.
Richard Varga. Hey, Brownlee won a few world titles. Come on, you got to give that to him.
No, yeah. Can I maybe just give us what I thought was my biggest takeaway from the weekend?
Okay, go ahead.
I thought it was great that we got to do a race in the Middle East without it being lethally hot, right? That wasn't the storyline that we spoke about today. This weekend was the heat. And so obviously, I mean, you get lucky sometimes with the weather, but I thought that was really nice that we got to just see a race where the athletes really dictated what happened on the field of play and not the environment.
Yeah.
I thought that Qatar, obviously from a visual standpoint, was really impressive. You know, we can pick on it and say, hey, there was 14 people watching it at the finish, but the reality is this area is trying to grow sport. They're bringing an Ironman there. This whole region is continuing to bring endurance sport there. So what they're doing is they're trying to create a lifestyle in that region, right? Will it work? I don't know. What's it going to look like in 10 years? I'm not sure. I have a really hard time forecasting that. But I thought the finish line, the gantry was incredible. Whatever the whale shark was, I thought that looked badass. That's obviously part of the city. Qatar knows how to put on an event, right? So here's what we're going to get to judge Qatar against. What does the Ironman race look like there coming up, right? And I think then we can have some opinions either way about it. But as a grand final, I mean, the visual looked incredible. I watched the whole. Go ahead, Mark.
0 spectators.
No. I mean,
I don't think you can say the visual looks great.
But it's gonna be the same problem when Ironman does the World Championships in Oman.
I don't think so. Not a world championship.
So. Not Oman.
Not a 70.3 world championship.
Because you have all the men on one day, the women on the other day, all their partners.
It won't look like that,
etc. It won't look like that.
Okay, so what about? Yeah, I mean, it's
a
little bit
to defend that argument. It's like comparing apples and oranges. The majority of the people are there to spectate their loved ones racing, but I mean they are there, yes.
But it's a world championship. If that's the debate we're gonna have.
Totally, but I mean, my only point was to give it great visuals. Great visuals require spectators. That's what I'm saying, in my opinion.
And I mean, to be fair, I have a drone shot of 20th place athlete in Kona crossing the finish line that I'm doing an edit right now. There's nobody there. There's no one there.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because
it's so bad that we're not going to use it.
Well, because everyone's gone, because their loved ones aren't in. They're not in for another hour.
Yeah,
and they've
many hours. Yeah.
So then,
so just should be noted.
Fair enough.
So, Morgan Pearson, though.
Let's talk a little bit about the rankings for the men, just like we did for the women. So, the standings itself kind of didn't really move a whole lot. The biggest mover, I guess you could say, would be Mika Newt moving from 3rd to 2nd over Yella, and Yella pretty much lost 20 grand moving from 2nd to 3rd. So that's really the only thing that happened really in the standings for the men and the women. So top 10: Hayden Wild, Mika Newt, Yella Gaines, Morgan Pearson, Rico Bogan, Martin Van Riel, Matisse Mazurier, Sam Dickinson, Yuri Kulin, and Gregory Barnaby. So that's your top 10. And then 20th place, Peter Hemrick, who had kind of a rocky start to his season and then to still end up getting a 20K bonus. Pretty nice season for Peter Hemrick.
And, I was about to say, was Morgan the highest hot shot? But I guess Hayden Wild and Kate Waugh, both the winners of the series, got hot shot contracts. So,
yeah.
There you go. Yeah.
So,
T100. I think that there's some other news here, some pretty breaking news of a merger. And I don't want to speak too soon on it because I still think that there's so much to unpack, so much unknown, so much we've heard about this a long time ago. Back in September, we heard T100, we heard T50, we heard T25, we heard T200. There is a lot to unpack here. So, what are y'all's thoughts?
Well, I personally think they might hate us, but we've had this for months, and on request, we've sat on it for them. So, you know, maybe
we
don't hate
organ
us too much.
we organize a stand down. We said we organized a truce.
Well, no,
is what
you organised a truce.
is what
I think the other three,
cooler heads
the
prevailed. Yes.
cool head prevailed. The other three of us were like, no, let's go.
Let's
go.
announce it.
Red button.
T200
button.
coming. Yeah.
So, I mean, can I try and maybe provide a little layering and some context for what I think is happening here and what they're trying to achieve? Because a bunch of
Yes,
this we
please.
don't know yet. There's a bunch of questions we don't have answered to, but I'm going to try and make it happen. So in September, Talbot's right. We heard that there was going to be a merger between World Triathlon and the T100. What does that mean and why do they have to do it? The T100 effectively has become what they said they weren't going to be, and we're not going to knock them for that. But they realized they had to become an events business that was ultimately driven financially from participants. World Triathlon has an events business for all their World Cups, their World Triathlon Series, their Connie Cups, but they don't want to be an events business. They want to be a governing body. So what was the likely thing to do? You call T100 and you say, hey, Sam and Chris, I got an idea. We'd like you to take over all of our events and manage them. And ultimately, this is now what I think is going to happen. They want to be able to place an age group race slowly next to all of these events, right? So let's take all the T100 races. It's very easy to incorporate an age group race at all of them. Those are easy. And then a great way for your investors to demonstrate that you've got some money attached to it. What will slowly then become of it is go, okay, we've got a bunch of World Triathlon Series races. We'd like to do an age group race in tandem with those. Okay, what does that look like? Then so on and so forth with the World Cups, and then they tier down. Now, what does this then allow T100 to do? The new T100 can say, okay, now World Triathlon was already broadcasting your World Cups. They're already broadcasting your World Series, and we are broadcasting our T100s. We're going to bring that all under our umbrella, and now we get to sell advertising against 35 to 45 race weekends instead of 9. So they can go to a non-endemic sponsor like a bank and say, hey, here's a product. Roughly, we're showcasing 2 to 5 hours of racing at a time. And now you're going to be seen across this many channels, this much throughout the year. We think that's worth something. And so ultimately, they're creating a more robust product to 1, sell more entries to, and 2, sell more advertising against, and 3, demonstrate that they have a successful business. I personally am choosing to draw a line in the sand here. And instead of bringing up a bunch of scabs and wounds from the past, which are all real, to say, okay, does this make sense moving forward? And is this what does the blue sky look like from here on out? And I think we can all agree. They got a bit of blue sky now in front of them. They've got an athlete pipeline. They've got a robust calendar. And hey, here's what Sam's done an amazing job of. Dialing for dollars. Homie has found some money. So, and they align themselves with a governing body that we may not all like at times, we may not all trust, but they've been around for over 30 years, and I don't think they're going anywhere. So, Mark, I might open it back up to you to kind of poke holes in what I'm saying, but I feel like I tried to lay the tracks down for where we are today.
I think it's totally fair. I think it's all accurate as well. Like the business acumen side of it makes total sense. It's definitely a perk for T100. I'm not sure they have necessarily proved their ability to organize events reliably and fairly, etc., to a point where like a world governing body would hand over their events to them if they didn't have to. So I think there must be a need on World Triathlon's part because it's quite a risk. But otherwise, like it makes a lot of sense. I think as well, like on a slightly more nuanced pro side of things, that T100 basically are losing all their Ironman athletes because Ironman are doing a good job of what they do. Their races do seem to favour short course athletes slightly more. And the real worry for T100 was 27, 28. Who's going to race their races? You know, the Olympics is back. So the short course lot are back to short course, and the long course have all done Ironman. Whereas now, well, they are in that whole bubble. So they've got another product. They've got the 50, which is what all these athletes trying to score points are going to be working on. So in 27, 28, if they don't get the massive draw on the 100 or the 200, it doesn't matter to them because they're still going to get high quality athletes at their shorter events. So they've kind of patched that problem over for themselves.
I think the other big thing would be something that we've talked about on this podcast pretty extensively is World Triathlon going back to being a governing body. And this kind of gives them the ability to do that. Something that World Triathlon has turned into is kind of like an events business, but also have to manage the governing body piece and also has to manage like the Olympic piece and like all these things that now gives them the ability to say, hey, here's this pretty little package. Here's the keys to the kingdom. Now you guys are the events business, and we're going to stick to doing this of rules and organizing and Olympic qualifying criteria. Is that fair, Pat?
I think so. I think they got to a point where they said, hey, what's your core business, both on the T100 side and both on the World Triathlon side? And they said, hey, I think we can come to a deal here that makes sense for both of us. What's a little perplexing for me on how they move forward is ultimately like now the T100, where let's just look back in time. There's a few things that they haven't delivered on as far as the event delivery, right? Does having way more events make their lives more complicated, or does it make it easier, right? We don't have the answer to that yet. We saw a schedule that they've got that came out for 26. There's still a date missing in Saudi Arabia. That's, one date right there. But again, I'm looking at this from an entity standpoint, and I'm saying, hey, maybe Sam and Chris have the ability to shake a few things up now to try and sell against this a little bit better. And they might say to World Triathlon, hey, let's either now we have a product with this broadcast product, which we know is great. Let's just try it for a year where we don't charge for it, right? Because we're going to put it under our umbrella with Warner Brothers, and they're going to be on HBO. So I just think you may have a few more commercially minded people now tending to and looking over World Triathlon, what used to be World Triathlon and now is going to be under. I mean, are we calling it what are they calling it? I forget what
Triathlon World Series? World Triathlon Series?
We got to look that. We got to fact check that. Talbot, what are you thinking?
Brilliant move.
Triathlon World Tour.
This is why this is a brilliant move. I don't see this being head to head with Ironman anymore, which I think we can all agree they're not going to beat Ironman. Ironman is Ironman. This is where this can be successful, though. In Oklahoma City, every year there's the Route 66 Triathlon, irrelevant to this conversation. But guess what? They can try to license the name, the image, the likeness of T50, which is a standard distance. You do that across all the world, that there's all these distances. You can qualify. It's through World Triathlon. We already know Ironman wants nothing to do. And the thing is these are these feeder races for Ironman events. Not everyone can just jump out and go do an Ironman or Ironman 70.3. They thrive on this local community, that there's always local events, whether it's in Texas, the Dallas Athletes Racing, whether it's in Oklahoma, Missouri, all across the world. There's all these little races. And if they can adopt that mentality, a lot of people don't have the time, energy, and effort to go train for this. So then it opens up a whole new market where you can get into and license these races, and they can really prosper, grow from this. And just real quick to add on to that, SuperTri, this is their biggest letdown. They continue to try to do their own thing. If they would have partnered with and tried to help run the broadcast professional side of things of the World Triathlon side of things, I think it would have been worth it. I think Sam Renouf, we've talked about this on this pod before. Ironman asked to partner. It was turned down. There's definitely been some reflection since then. This is a no-brainer partnership, and I think the sky is the limit. And it's not only is it incredible for the athletes, but it's an incredible move for the sport.
And I just want to give some context around the numbers on it, right? So I was at the grand final for World Triathlon Olympic distance in 2023 in Pontevedra, and then again in where the heck was it, in the south of Spain, in Torremolinos in 24. Care to guess how many age groupers did those events?
God,
5,000?
6,000.
6,500.
Yeah.
So they are absorbing some events that are highly, highly successful, right? It may not have the niche clientele. Like when you go to some of these races and you see the bikes that roll in, they're $800 bikes, right? But they are getting the entries, and it's not 800 of them, right? They absorbed an event in London, again, 6,000 entries. I mean, they have they've got a few diamonds in this merger, right?
I assume there must be a revenue split.
Look, we've got Sam coming on, and I think we got to kind of.
You think Sam, if I say to him, is there a revenue split, he's going to answer that question?
I think he'll say, yeah, there's a revenue split. I don't think he's going to give you the P&L on it, but I think he's going to say.
It's all about growing them, delivering a great product. There'll be no. Okay, fine. Well, I will ask him the question. There must be a revenue split. I guess the other one, I hope, though, what Talbot said, this absorbing these smaller races. Like, I hope they just absorb the World Triathlon races. I hope it doesn't start creeping into the independent races that still exist, because I'm kind of a bit sick of it absorbing independent races.
But what Talbot said is different than that. Talbot said the races couldn't license into the T50 name. They are paying for that versus T50
similar to like how CrossFit is a licensing thing, and gyms can license and say that they're a CrossFit gym, right, Talbot?
Yeah. So just to clarify that,
yeah.
I think that what he'll do ultimately, Mark, in like any merger, they're gonna draw a line in the sand, and they're gonna say, hey, we had the grand final, so we're still gonna get. If the grand final remains the same, we have this period of time where we're going to get paid on it, right? But moving forward, if you grow it, hey, if you bring it to 8,000 instead of 6,000, you're going to get the 2,000 to growth, the 2,000 growth athletes.
That's a good guess. Unless World Triathlon just want rid of that. They don't, because it doesn't help them. They get their budget off the Olympic Commission to run a national governing body style thing to fund performance triathlon. If they just want rid of that whole side of the business, because they actually may be only breaking even on it because they don't have the infrastructure, because they don't organize a lot of the big races like Ironman. The only reason Ironman makes profit is moving its infrastructure around. It capitalizes on large markets. Maybe they just want rid of it.
Yeah. And now what this provides them the ability to do is, if you're going and selling a weekend of an events, and you're going to the south of Spain, or you're going to the Middle East, or you're going to Asia, you can say, hey, look, this is what I'm going to bring you. I'm bringing you a T100 race. I'm bringing you up the Olympic pipeline with the T50 race, and I'm going to bring thousands of age groupers to your city. Please pay me. And that's, I think, what now all of a sudden they have a real powerhouse product to say, hey, we're going to bring a couple thousand, 3, 4, 5,000 people to your community, and we're going to put on 2 world-class events with this T100 and a T50 or a T25.
But not only that, I don't think there's a big thing in this licensing thing. I think that we've talked about this time and time again. The hardest thing and why short course has failed to take off more so in America is a lot of these amateur athletes cannot relate to short course racing because they don't do it. If these people are qualifying for a world championship, that they're going to race on the same exact course and the same distance and the same format is Hayden Wild, they love it. So if you're T100, I'm banging on USA Triathlon store and I'm saying, let's change the name of this Olympic distance, the standard distance triathlon. That new name is called T50, and guess what? We're going to give you guys all these digital assets that you can use to promote. Here's pictures of Hayden Wild. Here's promotion stuff. They can all qualify for the World Triathlon, T50 World Championship. I mean, it's a no-brainer for the sport of triathlon, and it's good for the sport of triathlon.
Tab, I don't know if you know, but your wife just brought the postman into your house behind you, behind the door. Is he a regular visitor? Is he?
I got to go.
So, okay, so
He's
was,
the mailman, okay? The milkman.
Oh, so mailman. Sorry, yeah.
it was spoken about, a year ago we heard this, that the T100 has a real possibility of getting into the Olympics. Now, my opinion is they're going to say that, but at the very, very soonest we could potentially see that is 2036. But I do believe this helps bolster their case, right? I think that me personally, I think they have got a better chance of getting a super sprint in than a T100 in. But I think that as an organization, they're going to say, hey, look, we would love to have a T100, and the sport would be better off if there was a non-draft race in there versus a super sprint, in my opinion. So
yeah, absolutely.
I just think they have the right to say, hey, we're trying to do this to put another event in. Do I think it's possible? I'm not sure. I think what's honestly would be they're going to have to think about this as in planning. Would they ever say, hey, we're going to kill draft legal to try and put in non-draft?
I think it would be good for the sport. I think that not the only way, there is an extreme disconnect. And people do Ironman and they follow the Ironman pros because they get to do that. Like World Triathlon tried to do these age group racing draft legal races, and it's just like, it was a fail. They tried it, and it's just, I guess the one question I have that none of us know the answer to is these T50s and these T25s, is this just amateurs, or are they going to try to run some T50, T25s? And if so, will those be draft or non-draft?
So I want to clarify that here.
Yeah.
World Triathlon currently does draft legal world championships at their grand final, right? So you can go to do a sprint distance draft legal world championship. I believe they also offer that at the Olympic distance. So it was a sight to be seen when I was in Torremolinos. I mean, you'd see these groups, 50 people going by on the bike all together. It was incredible.
Pat, you said you were going to do it and win it. You did.
Still
you watched
thinking
that.
about-
I remember
I was
distinctly when you watched that, and
There was a
you saw how bad
podcast.
I was impressed. I thought it was cool. I haven't really swam or ran since. So is the only problem. But so my point is, Talbot, I think they're going to actually do events that try and cover all that. So they might take on, they might do a race in, we'll use Oklahoma as an example, where they do a draft legal T50, they do a non-draft T50, etc. And those are both going to be gateways to qualify for their world championship. Does that make sense?
Is it going to be a 1K swim and a 9K run? Because Olympic is T50 1.5, which isn't quite so, catchy.
Cute. Not as cute.
Yeah. I think they're going to round down, and it's going to be the 51 points. The distance is going to stay the same, but they're going to call it a T50.
That's what they should
love
do,
to talk. We would love to talk about this more, and I think that we can keep doing that when we get Sam on the podcast later on this week. And if you have any questions or something like that, just submit it on our Instagram account or DM any of us, and we'll add it to our list of questions. Cool?
Totally. And just to right before we close this out, I think there is a lot of, and we'll address these on the show with Sam. There's probably a lot of athletes who are sold that this is the athletes organization and all this stuff. But I think one thing to look at here, yes, it is kind of a bummer. We don't know all the answers yet, but for the good of the sport, this is the right decision. Not only that, I do think that if you are Scott Deroux and you're watching this move, this could potentially be like, you could almost see them working together, because it's Scott Deroux and them. Something that they're hurting on is a catapult to go to the Ironman distance. And they're yes, they're a competitor, but now it doesn't make it almost as it's such a direct competitor. It's like this is a distance that we don't do. And how could we almost even, I don't want to say assist them, but it creates a catapult for them. It is very interesting.
I think they'll be I think most people are confined by time and expense, and they can only race so many races a year due to time and expense. And you don't want them racing a bunch of short distance races that are still expensive. You want them racing 70.3s and Ironman races, and people cannot do 2 of those and then 2 of yours. I think it's a direct threat, and I think it makes it way more of an even playing field rather than Ironman just smashing T100 into the ground with entries. I think it's a threat to them.
And here's why it's a threat. The appetite for triathlon races in Europe has not been satiated because you simply can't get into certain Ironmans. So what does it do? It allows for an easy layup for the T100 because you can go say, hey, Ricky and Susie that didn't get into Ironman Estonia, guess what? We're doing an awesome race in Germany. We want you to come do it. And I think that, for me, there's 2 ways to look at this if you're at Ironman. If I was Scott DeRue, I'd think about this in 2 ways. Is this a chance to create some harmony and think about what those 2 organizations have in common? Or do you look at what Sam Renouf has been really good at? Raising money. And you start thinking, shit, do we got to poach this guy?
He's not going to step. I don't know what role he would go into. He's in charge. He's the big boss.
He's been at the helm for like 6 years.
And you don't think that's taking a toll on Sam? If they went and said, "Hey Sam, we just want you to be our CRO, Chief Revenue Officer. You're in charge of bringing in money. You've got a huge book of contacts from the last 6 years. Bring them on over. We got a real bunch of real easy doubles and triples for you."
I think Sam can do kind of whatever he wants with his own company.
It should be said though.
Yeah.
The old Ironman, not this new age Ironman, the old Ironman empire, they would go find the Rev series, they would go find the Lifetime series, and they would go find the Wildflower Triathlon, and they'd say, Super Frog, how can we put this race out of business and only do Ironman? This is a new age for that, and this isn't the new Ironman. And I think Scott could work in unison, and it's better for the betterment of the sport because a lot of people don't want their first ever triathlon to be a 70.3. They want to go do the indoor triathlon down the street. They want to go do the local tri in London. And you got, I just see a big collaboration. You got Super Tri, who's bought Chicago Triathlon. You got New York City Triathlon. I mean, this could be the gateway to potentially make it to where Ironman is not a bucket list event. It is something that people return back and forth, and the gateway to that is helping through T100.
Something that Gimmel used to come on we used to have Gimmel on our podcast, and he used to call it the triathlon ecosystem, creating this circle of like people that are coming to do all the different events.
I would say though, people, if you've somehow ended up on our podcast and you haven't done a triathlon yet, or you've done one, I don't know why you're listening, but welcome. B, go onto your national governing body website, USAT, British Triathlon, whatever, and look at their events page and filter and find your local village, town, non-branded sprint. In a tennis court is the transition zone, and the swim is in a pool, and you go under the lane ropes. That is how you should start triathlon.
Yes.
And those events are dying, but they do exist. Talbot's done them. Kyle's done them. I've done loads.
My first race I ever did.
They are how you feed into triathlon. It doesn't have to be Instagram worthy, people. You don't have to go and like get the shot in front of a glitzy board at the end so you can post on Instagram. Go and race in a closed swimming pool, school car park. That's triathlon in my eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know Tommy Fury's listening. Tommy, I know you had a good time doing the T100 race. You can come do a pool swim race next.
I mean, you didn't do the whole race, mate. You absolute loser, but whatever.
We got a lot of questions that we're super excited to unpack. Sam, we're gonna have Sam on the show. We're gonna have a good, healthy debate with him, challenging him on some of the pro side of sport, to have good conversations for the amateur side of the sport. I mean, I think that this, in my opinion, is a win-win for
And
triathlon.
shout out to Sam. He emailed me after the race in Qatar and said, "Hey, you guys got the ability for me to come on this week and talk more about this."
Yeah.
I mean,
so
You should have
thank
said
you.
no just for a laugh.
We thought him and we did the dance already. Oh man, yeah.
Hey, we got a few hot takes before Gwen comes in and rips Pat out. So let's run through these.
Let's give a grade for the T100 this year. There's a lot of things that probably go into deciding what grade you guys want to give them for the season. You have the broadcast, executing the race in the calendar, athlete buy-in, the athletes that did the race, investors, series longevity. Kind of what do you guys think?
I'm
go
going
ahead,
first.
Pat.
I'm giving them a C+. And I think there's a world where, I mean, let's not forget, I think we were this close for this thing dying.
Yep.
Yeah.
We were this close for this thing dying. I mean, there were athletes that did not get paid until deep into Q2 of 2025 for 2024 season. They were given a lifeline. Now, knowing that
Saudi
they
oil
had,
money. Oh.
now that they had this lifeline, here's what they were able to do. They were able to do the races that they said they were going to do. The broadcast product is the best in the game, period. And they had a great final race in Qatar. They had a total stuff up in Dubai, but you know what? We got to see the races. I think the athletes are all going to get paid, and they're going to be around next year. And now they just did this huge merger. C+.
I'm going the exact same reasons as Pat, but I think that constitutes in the B range somewhere because I thought the broadcast drags them up higher, in my opinion. But like the disasters they've had and let's be honest, almost going out of business. Let's not start in the A range, but same reasons Pat perfectly put. Sorry, Talbot, yours, mate.
I would say athlete involvement, the athletes buying in, I'd say C-. I think the athletes could have been bought in more. I think broadcast, B+. I think the social team and their all-around social clipping posts, pushing forward social media, I would say A- because A+ is perfect. I would say almost we all need to remember the reason Ironman is here is because T100 have pushed them to be here and challenged them to be here. So we can't forget that. The reason why Ironman Socials is so good now is because they felt threatened from T100 PTO.
Well, it's Aaron. It's just Aaron.
Yeah, I think for me, it's probably a B+. All the reasons that you guys have all listed. I think the big warning shot for me this week was the fact that Grand Slam Track filed for bankruptcy, and to me, it was like a lot of similarities between what the PTO T100 was doing and what Grand Slam Track was trying to do. And so to see that our sport, the PTO T100, was able to kind of weather that storm and make it through that. Now, there's still athletes that are owed money, but I mean, they have enough money now and capital to hopefully be able to pay all of that.
And let's also remember what I kind of always got to calm everybody down from. T100, PTO, whatever you want to call it's been around for over 5 years now. Everyone has eventually gotten paid.
Yeah.
They don't have any debts from 2024 that are still owed, right? Okay. Do they still got to pay Vancouver from this year? Yeah, probably. But you know what? Do I think they'll pay it? Yeah. Okay, so they got to tighten up that a little bit. But what the difference between, because obviously you're not the first person to mention Grand Slam.
Yeah.
They're 5 years in front of Grand Slam. They made it 5 years further than them.
Yeah, so true.
And they got a 14-year parachute safety blanket with the partnership with the World Triathlon. And then now it's just gotten deeper. So that's it for me. The T100 schedule for 2026 was announced this week. We're kicking off with the women because we're doing split women, men.
Let's do a full show on this. Let's dive into hot takes. I think that first hot take, we reached out to Jackie Hearing on the Ironman incident with the golf cart at 70.3 La Quinta, And it should be noted, we talked about on here, Mark said it would have been a given that Ironman would take care of him. Ironman has reached out to every athlete that was impacted by and asked how they could financially assist them. So that should be noted in here. I mean, I don't think anyone has questioned that Ironman would or wouldn't do that. I mean, I think we all knew they would do that. So hats off to Ironman.
Yeah, going above and beyond.
Yeah, totally. Will PTN ever be partial towards the T100?
What do you think this episode just was? It was just a big. We all are just virtual popping champagne for them. I mean, I think what we've done is we call it like it is on either side. And as it goes back and forth between the two, we call it like we see it. Hey, Ironman's done a bunch of great stuff this year. I think we called him for it. Do we hit him when we think a water bottle rules needs to be revised? Yes. Do we hit them when we think some other rules need to be revised? Yes. But like Mark said previously, have they given away more money this year? Do they have a schedule out well in advance? Are they, they're supporting athletes better than they ever have? These things are all true. Did T100 stuff up Dubai? Yes. But when you go to a T100 race, do they take better care of you than anybody else? Yes. So we're calling it like we see it on both sides. Yeah. So no, we're not pro T100 news. Yeah, of course it is.
But but that is just the nature of the way the two beasts have unfolded. And T100 have done a great job of back half in their year with some real success stuff. So fair play.
Yeah, we plan to go to some T100 races next year, so we'll be a little bit more partial towards them. Athletes let the series down. As far as the athletes contracted for the T100 let them down. What do you guys think?
I'm going to say no, because the thing is, they stepped out of it because their heart wasn't in it. So we weren't going to get a performance that we wanted to see out of these athletes anyway.
Yeah.
Whether they were injured or they didn't want to do it. I mean, this is the way a series works. And so I just think it's
I'm a believer. You sign a contract, you do the contract, or don't sign the contract. Don't take clauses, don't get out, don't make excuses unless you're crippled. That's just, and I must admit, I've been pushed more into that by Kat's belief behind the whole thing. I probably was a bit more like, you look after you, but she's very much like, and she's kind of brought that on me. So I don't agree it's let the series down, because I also think the athletes that stepped out, they can't beat Kate Woff and they can't beat Hayden Wild. So it didn't affect the overall result.
Yeah.
But don't sign a contract you can't live up to.
Yep. I agree with all that. T100 World Triathlon merger saves both companies from an aspect of, I guess, they think both companies were maybe hurting at the time, and now this saves both of them.
So it was obviously well reported that World Triathlon had a $680,000 debt this year. What I don't know is, do they carry that same debt every single year? I'm not certain. Do I think that World Triathlon was going to go out of business? No. But do I think that they needed some sort of shock or some sort of new stimulus? Yes. So I think this was the jolt that both of them needed.
Yeah, I would say no with World Triathlon. It definitely does help T100.
Yep.
I do think if I was Sam Renew from the T100 team, I'd be reading these contracts really carefully, because World Triathlon ain't afraid of a little bit of corruption.
The Norwegians are ducking, considering that they didn't race any T100s this year.
Next question. Absolutely not.
Just shut up.
No.
Because do you know why? They're not ducking. Because they race each other in every race they do.
Yeah, no.
You ain't ducking if you're lining up next to KB or Castornes or Gustav in every single race you do all year.
No.
Nah.
You got to wonder, the person who submitted that question submitted it to get on YouTube, because we have a YouTube page now, and he wants to see all of our reaction. He just wants to get us riled up because he knows how stupid the question truly was. So hats off to him. Hats off to him. Because that is a stupid question.
Yeah.
I raced Kona. I raced 7.3 world. Frankfurt. I raced ducking. Sorry, go on. Yeah, go on.
Yeah. This is a question. What global sport has no fans? Considering, I guess there was no fans at Qatar.
Oh, dude, look at all the motorsport races. Come on. I'm not gonna. You go and turn on a NASCAR race right now. The stands are empty. So I'm not gonna. I'm not gonna acknowledge.
NASCAR is a large following. That's not good. Look,
But they're saying stop. They're saying at events. They're saying what sport has no fans at events? Dude, have you turned on a Major League Baseball game?
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
that's fair.
Come on.
The camera finds all the fans that are actually in the stands.
Yeah. So
you could also take other sports like brandy or fistball and things like that have global presence, and maybe their parents are coming to watch them play.
You look but let's take a huge sport like cycling. Look at a stage finish of the Vuelta a España in September. It's empty. There's nobody there watching it. Now the broadcast product is different, but the actual on the field, I mean, there's nobody there. So this problem is not. It's not unique to
all that shit. Like
pickleball. Pickleball. There's a lot of people that go to pickleball.
Oh
no,
there's not. They're just waiting to play.
Yeah,
but I agree. By the way, I think it makes for a better product to have fans present.
Of course.
What's this one? Surveys.
The next one is we have a survey for the end of the year awards. We'd love for everyone to go click on it. Also, this week, if you're listening to the show and you're listening to this later on in the week, a topic that's come on time and time again is the 20-meter draft rule, and we're curious to just get everyone, even our listeners' thoughts from amateur athletes to the pro athletes. So we're going to throw that survey up as well and kind of just get a feeling on where our audience stands on that as well. So would love for you guys to head over to our Instagram page. It's quite crazy because we have like 30,000 followers, but we're getting like 40, 50,000 downloads on some shows. So I'm curious on, follow us on Instagram. If you don't follow us, come on with it. Next one, T100 male and female race selection. Mark.
I thought this had been a little bit of a dry show, so I thought I'd just throw in a slightly funny observation. Do we think the male and female, the way they worked out, normally I think you would start at the top and be like, right, who's going to start the season, male or females? What I think they did was went Saudi Arabia has to be men only. We can't have women in skimpy outfits racing here. So that's men. And then they've worked their way backwards and they've gone Dubai, therefore women. A bit more liberal, Dubai. And then they've worked their way backwards.
Now, this is a question. That's what you should have saved that question for Sam later this week.
Well, Sam can now come up with his bullshit answer of why that's not true. Because I'm betting that's true.
He did that.
Work out why it's not true. He'll say ladies first, is what he'll say.
There's an article that Tim Hemming put together on this whole merger on Triathlete Magazine. So if you want to go and kind of learn more and kind of figure things out, Tim actually did ask him that in the interview, and he said, "Yeah, I'm sure the optics seem that way, but no, it wasn't like that."
They're doing a World Cup there as well.
But
they're doing a World Cup race there as well. That'll have both races in it.
You should minimize the women exposed at all costs. So that's why I'm standing by it. We're not clipping this. I'm standing by this.
I need to apologize. I've had this clicker in my hand. I've been clicking it the entire show, so I apologize if you're listening on headphones and you've heard clicks the entire show. But there's no better place to hear the future of World Triathlon and T100 than our show. If you're not subscribed on any podcast listening platform, YouTube, whatever, please go subscribe. We're going to have a massive show with Sam Renouf. I mean, basically covering the future, essentially, of our sport on this side of the sport, which has huge implications, and we're super excited to have him on. So don't forget, and we'll see you next week.